Hey everybody, it's me, Mark, with theprojectjunkie.com. Today I've got an awesome project. We're going to be making some carbon fiber downhill racing longboards. You guys that like longboarding, this is one that you ought to give a try. So let me show you what I've got going on here, and we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, so the best place to start is on paper, and here I've got a template that I've drawn up. Now I drew this template up last year, so I don't remember exactly all the different dimensions and that. Really there's not much to a longboard, so drawing up the dimensions, you guys can figure that out on your own. Basically I've got a section here where the truck is going to mount. You can see that I've got this drawn up in different sections. This section here is actually for a foam core. I was thinking about putting some love handles or death grips, whatever you want to call it. Basically this section here would be recessed, and then you'd have this stick up so you can grab it with your hand as you're taking tight corners. We may do that, may not. I'll have to think about it a little bit more. It'd definitely make a cooler longboard, so maybe we'll do it. Anyway, let me show you how I've got these plans oriented. This is just drawn up on some poster board, and I've made this so that it splits down the center line of the front and back. This particular longboard is symmetrical front and back, so there's no front or back per se as you're riding the longboard. So keep that in mind. That's why I did it down the center there. If you're not worried about the front and back being symmetrical or the same, then you can actually just fold it down the center. This is probably the most important line here, and this is to make it so that both sides or both halves are the same. So there's your template. I've got it drawn out. I'm going to go ahead and show you some other stuff here in just a second, and I'll show you how to actually make a good foam core template here. Once you've got your plans drawn up like we've got here, you're going to need to make a foam core template. And so you can see here I've got some lines drawn for reference points on the foam core. I'm actually going to be joining all this together. However, this is going to be recessed here in this section. So basically what I need to do, since this is 11 inches wide, I'm going to cut out two pieces of 1/8 inch handy board, MDF, hardboard. It's called many different things. And we're going to glue them together so that I have two pieces like this. And then what we'll do is we'll trace out the template that we need onto the wood. So anyway, I've got my table saw set up, 5.5 inches, so I can cut out two strips, 5.5 inches of this 1/8 inch hardboard. So let me go ahead and get that cut, and then I'll show you how to draw the template onto there. Okay, I've got my two strips of 5.5 inch wide by 1/8 inch thick MDF, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it with some of this 3M Super 77. This stuff is awesome because you can glue things together and then pull them apart later. So basically I'm going to spray down both these sides. You let it dry, and then you just stick them together. I got both these boards glued together, and one of the things I failed to tell you was that the Super 77 only takes like 45 seconds to dry. So basically I stuck these two together. Then I ran them through the table saw again so that one side was flush. Just to make sure that it's flush and straight, I'm going to be using this sanding block that I've got here. This has got some 36 grit sandpaper on it, so something really heavy. And I'm just going to long block this to make sure that this line is straight. Okay, don't know if you can see this real good, but basically I've got my lines drawn for the foam core template. these lines here and the inside line here on the curve. That's what the foam core is going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Alright, so I just cut this out with the jigsaw there, and basically I've left about a 1/16 of an inch, I don't know what you'd call it, an extension from the line. So now I have to take some sanding equipment and sand that down so that it matches that line. And I might just use a palm sander on that. I usually like to use hand tools, but I'm kind of in a hurry, so might just use a palm sander and see if I can get that nice and straight there. I did use a table saw on the back edge here, so that was nice and straight. Anyway, I will get this sanded down and then I will show you how to pull it apart. Alright, here's an easy way to find out if both sides are exactly the same, or close to anyway. On the foam core, it's not real important that it's exactly on, but it's got to be somewhat close. So anyway, I've taken this, I lined it up from the corner here, and then made sure that the back was flush with the paper. Then I just took a pencil, drew around it, and then I just flipped this over to the other side and do the same thing. Here's some that I did before. You might be able to see this this line gets a little wider there. That's because both sides were a little bit different. And then I went to this side. You can see here how it was a little bit different. So I shaped it down to where now they're both the same. You can see that along there. It might be like 1/64 off, but that's close enough for me. So anyway, it's an easy way to match up the ends. Now that the foam core template is cut out and shaped, I need to create the recess for the truck mount. Here's the master template, and if you remember, I told you that the trucks are going to mount in this area here. So basically, here's an old prototype. This is a drop deck, so you can either do a drop deck or drop through on this. But the guys that wanted the boards originally wanted a drop deck and not a drop through. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to do a drop deck and not the drop through on this particular board. Although if you wanted the drop through, you could do it. So with that said, basically I need 3 different sections to this. I need a section where the foam gets all the way cut out. The foam core gets all the way cut out. So the foam core will be removed in this area here. And then I need another recess to where this 1/8 inch plate, this is just G10, well, it's an 1/8 inch G10 fiberglass laminate. It's pretty strong, and this will be a plate that we put in there, and it'll go back into the foam core. When I first started making boards, I would just put the laminate so that it went just where the mount was. But what was happening is on this thin spot here on the board, if you hit something really hard with the trucks, it actually cracked that. So I've started extending it back, and it gives it a lot more structure and support. So when you hit something solid, this helps to keep this part here from breaking. So enough of that said, I'm going to go ahead and use a table saw to cut these to cut this part out. So basically it's going to come back this way, and then you'll also notice that right along here it goes in just a little bit further and up, and that's because of the guide that I have on the router to get that 1/8 inch recess on the foam core. I will show you a little bit more about that after it's done, but for right now I just got to get this cut out. So I'm going 7.5 inches from here to there. Alright, so now I've got that cut on the table saw. It's a nice straight line, and I've got to cut it all the way off. So I'm just going to use this coping saw here and saw it off. Alright, I wanted to show you how easy it is to get this this board apart. Basically, it's already started coming apart right here. If it hasn't already started doing this, you can just use a little razor to get it started. But anyway, you can see here how it's just kind of coming apart. The more glue you've used on this, the harder it's going to be. But you just kind of take your time with it, nice and slow. I'm doing this with one hand. You don't want to do it too much or it'll break. So I'm just doing it nice and slow there. So anyway, that's really all there is to it. I'm going to go ahead and get this the rest of the way, and then I'm going to tape the two halves together and add those little pieces that I had cut out with the coping stuff. Alright, the foam core template is done, and you can see here I've drilled some holes. These holes are for some finishing screws. I cut these at a 1/2 inch. Basically the nail fits in there, but the head doesn't go all the way through. So you can see here I've got this one pushed down. That just holds the template on top of the foam. I'm using 5/8 of an inch Divinycell, which is a PVC thermal forming foam, and this is the non-corrugated kind. I'm going to go ahead and push all the nails down on this and then get ready to route this out. One thing to note is this white strip here is just some duct tape, which we used for the truck mount here. And again, I'll show you how all this works out, but don't forget to do that on your template.